Welcome to the We Are More podcast. My name is Alyssa.
And my name's Bree. We're two sisters passionate about all things faith and feminism.
We believe that Jesus trusted, respected, and encouraged women to teach and preach his word. And apparently that's controversial.
Get comfy.
Bonjour.
Hello.
J'aime beaucoup le fromage.
You know, we do have French listeners.
Je suis un poulet.
Now she's sorry.
No, I'm not.
You should be.
I said I am a chicken.
I know. I think we've said this before, but Brie took French for way too long to be as bad as she is at it.
Well, if you don't use it, you lose it. And if you never had it, where did it go? You know what I'm saying?
My daughter has been very into Duolingo lately.
She has been. She came in my room this morning and she was like, bonjour, something.
I'm sorry, French people out there. But she's so excited about it. And she, out of nowhere, chose that she wanted to learn French. And she's been every day on there.
It's a beautiful language. I know several key phrases. I know hello. I know you are dumb.
Cool.
I know I am a chicken. Where's the library? Do you like beef? I feel like butter.
You know, I feel like butter.
No, actually, I don't.
I've heard, though, that with Duolingo, if you don't, get on it every day, the Duolingo owl harasses you intensely.
And she was showing me there's some, weird animated characters that really judge you.
Yeah. I think she picked the one that judges you, though. They were you get to pick which one you want to be.
She's like, look, it looks like Ennui from Inside Out. And I was like, okay.
I know. She showed me. She was like, look, I'm going to get this activity right and watch what she does. And so she gets the activity right, and the thing, shrugs or throws its hands up in the air. It's ridiculous.
She thrives through negative reinforcement.
Great. That's what I wanted for my child. So today we're going to be talking about... How would you describe this exactly?
When I originally texted you, it was how are we making ourselves smaller to accommodate the patriarchal world around us? And in my mind, I was like, it was physically and emotionally and spiritually. There are so many times that just as a woman going through society, we feel like we have to not be our true selves. We have to think about manspreading. They take up more physical space than you.
And if they don't, they're going to try.
Yeah. And women so often are trying to make ourselves smaller so that we just don't rock the boat. But what would happen if we said, forget that. I'm going to be my true self. This has been all over TikTok, but decentering men in my life and really just pursue what I think is best for me. And where would I go? How far would that get me? Because men do that, you know? They don't think about, oh, what will a woman think about this if I post this picture or if I spread my legs on a bus? I don't know.
That made me uncomfy. That actually reminds me of one of our most hated books ever, God's Guys and Garbage. I don't even remember what the real title of that is.
Let's talk. Girlfriends, boyfriends, you know.
Anyway, it's by Danae Dobson. We hated on it for a whole episode a couple months ago. But that reminds me of something that she talked about. She, in there, was saying, as a girl, you might be thinking, well, what should I do? Because he might not like this and blah, 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 blah. And kind of making that very normal. That's what you should do. Is before you make any action, consider, will men appreciate this? Will this be attractive to men? And this is something that you and I have talked about a lot in just kind of the decisions that we make in our lives. That not every decision we make has to be attractive.
attractive, and also like not every decision I'm going to make is going to make you comfortable.
Right.
And that's not my objective,
Right.
is to make other people comfortable all the time. Sometimes.
Often not.
Often not.
But I think that you're right. It's not that you want all of your actions to make everyone in the world uncomfortable, but that's not your main priority.
Exactly.
But that kind of is the expectation for women, is that that we are supposed to step out of the way and make people around us comfortable, even physically.
Yes.
Like, as a rule, men, when they walk in a straight line, will just keep walking in that straight line. Even if somebody's in their way, they're not going to veer. They're not going to, get out of the way, whatever. Women, as a rule, will step out of the way. And you can give a million reasons for that. Like, you can say, well, women are trained to be more considerate,
Or
whatever.
women are constantly having to be aware of their surroundings, where men are not.
Right. And so then what happens if you don't step out of the way? I saw a TikTok one time and she was like, I have run into 12 men this month because I didn't step out of the way.
Really enjoy doing this. And I've gotten almost maybe too aggressive. I'm like, I'm not only going to not get out of the way, I'm going to walk directly towards you. Just see what happens.
That seems like the opposite of the solution here. I wish somebody had said that, because we did those acts of microfeminism. We asked that on our TikTok the other day. And I almost wish that somebody had said something like that, because I always think that's funny.
Yeah.
That's our acts of microfeminism
Yeah.
in our own lives.
Get out of my way. I have a mission too.
But I wanted to talk about, because I think sometimes we trick ourselves in the church to think these are modern concepts. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, but the idea that women are equal to men.
Shocking. Disturbing even.
The idea that women shouldn't cater to men or shouldn't make themselves smaller for men. Sometimes by the more conservative Christian church, we're told that that's like a newfangled idea that came about, in the 80s when women were burning their bras. Were they burning the 70s? When were they burning their bras?
I think it was like 60s, 70s.
Frankly, it's hot enough in this room that my bra may light on fire.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of go back in history and talk about Christian history, faith-based history a little bit, and show that none of this is new.
Yeah, like these concepts that we talk about every week, not a lot of them are new. They have been going around for a while, and actually what we're doing to women now, that's new.
Right.
Oppressing women to the point of suffocation. That's new.
It's definitely new in Christ following, because when Jesus came, he specifically said, don't do this. Like, the world around them was doing it. And he said, no, thank you. Let's do this differently.
He said, thank you. Next.
So I was reading a blog today, and I actually did not appreciate a lot of what they had to say.
Wow, I'm glad you read that.
Sometimes you got to read the opposite things. But one of the things that they said that I did like and that I wanted to call attention to is that they said women are not background characters or supporting characters in their own stories. And that's true even in the Bible. Like, Brie and I were talking about the story of Ruth, who is not someone we're necessarily going to go into today, but one of the shorter books in the Old Testament, and it's literally titled Ruth. And yet, even though this is her story, this is Ruth's story, and also Naomi's story, who's her mother-in-law, when you hear this story talked about, I am constantly hearing about the man in the story.
I think because we've talked about this before, like, so often women get their worth based on how they are related to men. So, like, Mary was engaged to Joseph, and that's why we know who Mary is, or so on and so forth, and what have you. But, like, their significance is based on what men they know.
Well, in the story of Ruth, Boaz, who's the man she ends up marrying, is not really that significant of a character. Like, obviously he's an important part of the story, but the story is hers. The story,
it's her name.
Yeah, it's about what she does to protect herself, to protect her mother-in-law, how she believes what God has for her. And he just kind of is there. Like, you could switch him out with really anybody, and the story would stay the same.
Well, I mean, he has a really nice name.
Boaz?
Boaz.
But, so I wanted to talk about kind of through the ages, drama.
As are the days of our lives.
I think it's these are the days.
These are the days of our lives.
We don't watch a lot of soap operas.
No.
That's not true. I watch Grey's Anatomy. That's as much of a soap
watch-
opera as anything.
Gilmore Girls.
But we're going to talk about 4 women in the faith community. They're not all biblical women, because obviously we're going through history and the Bible kind of stops at
What?
a certain point.
No. I thought it kept going.
I mean, it
And
probably
Jesus
depends on who you talk to.
Boarded a canoe and sailed to America.
That would be the Mormons.
Ah, I got confused.
So we're going to talk about Deborah, who we've talked about before, one of our bestest friends. We're also going to talk about Saint Bridget of Ireland.
Bridget.
And then we're going to talk about Margaret Towner. And then we're going to talk about Rachel Held Evans. And they kind of span the centuries.
So these are the days of our lives. What is the beginning part of it?
I don't know. I don't watch Days of Our Lives.
Me neither.
So first let's talk about Deborah of the Bible. Now,
Big
I don't
Deb.
have... Yeah, Big Deb. I don't have like the years Deborah lived, because, you know,
She's in the book of Judges.
she is in the
Figure
book of
that out
Judges.
yourself.
She was BC. But Deborah was a major figure in the book of Judges.
Mm-hmm.
She was both a judge and a prophet, and she led her people to war.
To war.
Whoa, it was scary.
What?
I was frightened.
I'm Batman.
And the basic story, because we've done a whole episode on her before, we talk about her all the time, so you guys are probably familiar with her. If you're not, her story is in Judges 4 and 5. But just like a super quick overview.
Mm-hmm.
So Deborah is a judge and a prophet appointed by God. So she is like a major leader in her community. She is kind of the leader in her community.
Mm-hmm.
She is married, and yet she does not step aside for her husband. She does not step aside for any of the men in her community. God appointed her, and so she leads.
Mm-hmm.
Now, time goes along, and a man named Barak comes to her and says, hey, we need war.
What is it good for?
And she says, okay, you know, like, go lead our people, do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm not going. He said, I will not go unless you go.
Mm-hmm.
And Deborah's response is basically like, I will go with you. I will help lead with you. But if I do this, then the credit for winning this war is going to go to a woman. And this is so often seen as like an insult, like a hit to his masculine pride.
Sensitive.
But he didn't take it that way. Or at least according to the Bible, he didn't take it that way. He said, cool, let's go, best friend. And they went off and they won their war together. And there's a whole additional part of the story. But
With JL.
yeah, again, we're concerned for JL.
Yeah.
We have
maybe
worries.
Seek help.
Yeah. JL is a little bit of a murderer. But very strong. And
Hey. If sometimes you gotta tent peg people in the eye.
she's
or
an
in the
important
temple.
part of the story.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially the story. That's her story in the Bible. It's pretty short. It's 2 chapters.
And she sings.
She does sing. Everybody's singing in the Bible.
It's a musical.
It really is.
That's why they made Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah, I forgot that's how it went. So when you pull it apart in context of what we're talking about, I have heard the argument that Deborah led her people because there were no good men to stand up and lead her people. So by default, there was Deborah.
She must.
But that's not what the Bible says.
No, and I think that's the dangerous part of just like making things up, right? The Bible says she was a ruler and a judge. There you go. She was a ruler and a judge, but there's people will do anything they can to make women smaller. You're right, in their own stories. And so they made an excuse that oh, these men serving beside her must not have been worthy.
Right.
Or they must have sucked. When it doesn't say that.
No. I mean, I think you have to... That makes God pretty insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
If God wanted just men to lead, then when they were children, he could have raised up men to lead instead of Deborah. He could have taken the existing men and worked with them until they were the leaders that he wanted them to be.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't do that. And then we look at Barak in this story.
Different from the Barak you and I know.
Quite. And what an insult to him, too.
Yeah.
God chose Deborah to lead the people because Barak couldn't do it. The Bible doesn't say that either.
No, he went right beside her.
Mm-hmm. He went with her. And frankly, isn't that what most of us would do today?
Mm-hmm.
Not just women, men, everyone. How often do you choose to go into dangerous situations by yourself?
Well, every day I go to work.
A wise person brings someone along that they know can support them, can do what they can't do.
Because you can go so much further with someone else. Like, even just confidence-wise, think about yourself. Like, I'm so much more bold and I lack a lot of filters when there's someone else by my side.
Usually it's me.
So that's true for them too. You can go so much further as with a team.
And I love to see this particular pairing with Deborah and Barak because and we'll go into this with our next person as well, but it shows a camaraderie. It shows equality. Instead of if you had two men or if you had two women in this story, it wouldn't show that ability to really work together in a safe and equal space the way that this does. Now, I don't know. They could have had a volatile relationship for all I know. But what the Bible says here is that they were a team.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it do to our world when instead of women having to be small to cater to egos, to cater to, like, you've said this before, but in your small group, how the women would, like, do little things to make the men think they were making the decision or whatever?
Yeah. I was in a group of divorcees. And I remember them having a conversation. You're right about, well, how do we make our men feel more like men when they're making decisions that we disagree with? And the solution was obviously to give them little things that they can make the final decision on that you really don't care about. But the things that you do care about, you just make the decision, whatever you want it to be. So just babying them, making them feel like they're the man. And is that truly what you think God intends marriage to be?
Right.
More manipulation. It's just not right. How much better could it be if you just sat down with your partner and communicated, hey, this is why this is important to me, and this is why this is important to you, and maybe we can come to some kind of agreement on this situation, whatever it may be, but that to me seems so much more godlike in a marriage than manipulation and behind your back, you know, I don't know where my words are.
They're up there. I saw them. They flew away.
Oh, see ya.
But I think that's obviously, like, Deborah and Barak is not a marriage situation, but I think it's such a great example of that, of two people who are, I mean, honestly, they're not equals at the end of the day. Deborah is in charge in this situation, but Deborah chooses to go into this with him.
She's a boss. She's a boss. And she's trying to say it.
But you see them working together, communicating with one another. And I mean, I guess you could look at when she says, like, hey, the credit for this is going to go to a woman. You could maybe look at that and say, like, well, that's a little manipulative. But the reality is that was the reality. She was a prophet, and she knew from God that that was the truth. And frankly, the credit didn't even go to her. It went to jail.
No. And he didn't even question it. He wasn't like, hey, well, that makes me uncomfortable because I'm a man.
Right.
And God appointed me as leader, so I don't like that the credit would go to someone else. No,
Right.
he said, all right, thank you for informing me of your prophecy. Let us move on.
And this really was even, like, timeline-wise, prior to Jesus coming back and saying, hey, we're going to do things differently. So you can already see God's people starting to try to do things differently. Now, do they always? Obviously not. Like, none of us do everything perfectly, but
What?
I'm so sorry to let you know.
I thought I did.
Not today.
It's really, really a bad day for me.
So anyway, so the next person that I want to talk about is Saint Bridget, and then she's of Ireland, but also of Kildare, depending on who you talk to, I guess.
I don't know what Kildare is.
Now, the blog that I was looking at spelled her name incorrectly. It's Brigid, not like Bridget, like we would normally think of today. So Saint Bridget is from the Catholic tradition. And we've talked about this before when we talked about our best friend Beth's book.
Yeah.
And we talked about some of the Catholic traditions that Protestants really have tried to, like, steer clear of. Because obviously the Protestant traditions don't have the saints, don't have those kinds of things. However, while I think we would consider ourselves more Protestant, it's important to remember that our history comes through the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Because after Christ and after that early church, it developed into Catholicism before it developed into Protestantism. So our histories are all entangled. They're still in there.
It's like talking about a family, right? It's like how I am, and you're welcome, a quarter Maltese.
Yes.
And whatever. Like, it all goes back. We all come from somewhere.
Right.
And it's important to talk about where we came from.
And I think we so often in the Protestant church forget about this history or, like, really intentionally black it out.
Yeah.
But it's important to talk about these people. So Saint Bridget lived from 451 to 525 AD. And obviously that's approximate.
Recently.
Very recently. So I think this would have still been kind of considered the earlier post-Christ church. Obviously not the first people, but that earlier church where they still really remembered what was going on right after Jesus died.
Their great-great-great-grandparents.
So she lived in Ireland. She is actually now the patroness saint of Ireland. So you'll see her on a lot of things over there.
I want to go to Ireland. Let's go.
I'm in. Let's go tomorrow.
I want some, like, soda bread and a Guinness.
That's all you had, right?
Yeah.
We're sorry to both the French and the Irish today. So she was an abbess, and we've talked about some abbesses before, and essentially what that means for those of us who grew up in the Protestant church and have no idea what that means is that she would have been in charge of an abbey, which had both nuns and monks in it. They were traditionally led by women. And so she was the abbess of Kildare in about 480 AD. 480 AD.
I still am not clear on Kildare.
It's a city.
Voltaire. Hair. I would personally like to learn about Voltaire.
That's from Princess Diaries, for those of you that don't know. I did not get that quote for the longest time.
Oh, I know. Me too. I just like the sound of it.
It does. It's,
know.
it's got a flow.
Voltaire. Hair.
So she founded that abbey, the Abbey of Kildare. And then she also founded more convents of nuns.
Where is Kildare?
In Ireland. Now, there is a debate amongst the scholars about whether or not she really existed or if she is kind of almost a mythical figure.
Like Superman.
Yes.
Or Super Mario. Or Santa Claus.
The poor children. You just said Santa Claus.
You can cut that out. Or myself.
You're a mythical figure.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Ah, yes.
Ryan.
Got it. So, like I said, yeah, there's a debate about whether she's real, but there's a lot of documentation that she existed. So, scholars are debating. She is said to have worked miracles, which I believe is part of the requirements to be a saint in the Catholic Church. it's said that she worked miracles, including healing and feeding the poor, which I think, obviously, like in the Protestant church, they don't really believe in the miracles side of things.
Which I don't know why
I know.
they don't.
That's an odd one to me.
Read the Bible. Miracles be happening all the time, not just from Jesus.
But even so, like healing and feeding the poor, that's one that could really be, is it a miracle or is it like
Science?
She was just really great. Like there's a story about her. And when it comes to saints, there's like legends that surround them. Mm-hmm. And so you have to decide whether you feel that this is true history or kind of the legend of this person. Mm-hmm. And that happens with a lot of historical figures anyway. Mm-hmm. But one of the stories that they have about her is that essentially she was so generous that it made her father really mad. He was just really pissed off at her. And so he was going to take her, because they were nobles, he was going to take her to the king and like ship her off to wherever. And
she was being too generous.
She was too generous. And so she had, for some reason, she had her father's sword that had like gems and whatever in it, and she gave it to someone who was homeless outside of the palace.
And a final act of rebellion.
Yeah. And the king somehow saw it and saw that she was so generous, and that's part of why she went on this now journey to be an abbess. Which obviously, again, legend, not necessarily documented history, but it is kind of a fun story.
Yeah.
So she, along with 7 others, is credited with organizing communal, consecrated religious life for women in Ireland.
Say that again.
So basically that means that she organized the nuns. Like, she made space for women to go into full-time ministry.
Nice.
To live that life in Ireland. So then this is part of her story that I really liked and wanted to talk about because it reminds me of the story of Deborah. Mm-hmm. So she appointed a man named Conleth. Now, I could be saying that wrong, but I think I'm saying it right. He was a hermit, and she appointed him to be the bishop of Kildare. So to kind of like lead alongside her. Mm-hmm. And that led to literally centuries of Kildare being led by abbesses and bishops together.
Nice.
Which I thought was, again, calling back to the story of Deborah, where you see this working together.
And just things that you do not hear about, especially in like the Southern Baptist Church or just the Baptist Church. You do not hear about women, period. Yeah. And I wonder, like we said, like you go further together. You go further as a team. And as a Western Protestant community, we have really put a wall up on how far we can go, on how far we can take God's love, because we won't work as a team. Well, it's a power struggle constantly. Rather than fighting to show God's love to people, we're fighting each other on who God loves more.
Right.
And we keep saying that it's men.
But you can see these women, and obviously we've looked at just 2 now, but the next 2 as well. They didn't step aside. They said, God called me to exist here in this space, and I'm going to take up as much space as I want to. Bridget was founding churches. She was giving nuns a space to live and exist and worship God. And I think we forget that a lot of times with, at least from the Protestant perspective of the Catholic Church. We kind of, I think because of that movie, because of
Sound of
Music, a lot of times we forget that the women that she was leading and the men that she was leading had dedicated their lives to God. And she gave them a space and a home to do that in. And what did that do for God's kingdom? We'll never know the impact that had for God's kingdom, because she decided to take up the space that she was supposed to take up.
Yeah.
She didn't step aside so that a man could do it instead. So then the next woman, we're skipping a good bit forward in history because I didn't feel like finding someone from every single century.
Why not?
It just sounded like a bad time, frankly.
It seems like you failed.
So the next woman I want to talk about is Margaret Towner. And she was born in 1925, and she is still alive. She is 100 this year.
Happy birthday!
I don't know when her birthday is. But she was the first woman to be ordained as a minister of the Presbyterian Church of the United States of America.
Good for her.
And this happened in 1956.
A good year.
She also, I thought this was super interesting. She went to Western Michigan.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. So if you don't know, we are from Michigan. That is where we are currently melting.
Some people say Michiganans.
Some people might say that. Probably not a lot, though.
Our governor might say Michiganders.
You're never going to let that go. It's like the 5th time you said that. But I just thought that was a fun little like connection.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's actually relatively close to where Bree and I both went to college.
Mm-hmm. And especially because like the 50s, you do not think about that. You think Leave It to Beaver housewives.
Right. This was, I think her like higher education, like not necessarily her bachelor's degree, but yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. So the PCUSA, which is what the fun little acronym that we're going to use, and I think that they use, because frankly, that's too many words to say.
Different from PCOS.
Yes. They voted to ordain women in 1955, and she was ordained in 1956. Now, it's important to note that this is slightly different from the PCUS, which is the southern branch of the Presbyterian Church. They did not vote to ordain women until 9 years later, but they did eventually. But she was ordained in 1956. An interesting story. So there were many women waiting on this vote. It's not like she was a straggler.
Mm-hmm.
There were women ready to go, had their education set, knew what was required of them, and were waiting to be ordained because they felt God's calling. She did not know that she was the first because there were so many women being ordained, which, how incredible.
Yeah.
In 1956.
I wish I was there.
Mm-hmm. She didn't know that she was the first, but eventually, of course, that she found that out. Now, when she was ordained, when she didn't know she was going to be the first, but when she actually had the ceremony or whatever it is, I don't really know how that functions, to be ordained, they had a photographer from Life magazine there, and they did a 5-page spread.
Wow.
On her ordination.
Holy moly.
Yeah, because this was like a landmark thing.
Yeah.
This was huge. Now, I don't know if this was happening globally in the Presbyterian Church, but particularly in the United States, this was new.
Mm-hmm.
But just because she was ordained did not mean that things went smoothly.
It never does.
She did not get ordained having a church to go back and preach at.
Mm-hmm.
She got ordained. She came back to the church where she had attended prior to that, and she was never asked to preach or lead a service. Not once. And in fact, it wasn't until, I believe the Presbyterian Church is similar to the Methodist Church in that they give you like postings. So they kind of like assign you to like, you're going to be here, you're going to be here. And it wasn't until her last posting that she was paid the same as the male pastors.
Which was when?
Which would have been probably around like 1970s. So it was a good 15 to 20 years before she was paid the same as the men. However,
a struggle even today.
However, in 1981, she was elected the vice moderator of the church's General Assembly. So even a higher position than a church pastor or something like that, but to kind of like the governing board of the Presbyterian Church. She retired then in 1990.
A good year.
And then, like I said, she is now 100 years old.
Wow.
Which, I mean, what a wild life.
Probably not something that she would have even anticipated.
And if you think back to like what people say about Deborah, like, oh, there weren't enough good men. I'm sure that there are many a good man in the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
Many men willing to step up and preach and lead and do all the things that a pastor needs to do. And yet, Margaret was there, also feeling the same calling from God.
Yeah, we're not saying there aren't good men out there to preach, teach, and lead. There are. But we're also saying there are lots and lots and many, many qualified good women out there ready to teach, preach, and lead. And saying that their calling is any less from God is wrong.
Well, I've heard that, and this wasn't something that I never really felt a call to ministry necessarily, but something that I've heard from women who feel a call to ministry is that they're told when they're younger, if they say that, if they voice it, that they're being called to be pastors' wives.
That was in Beth Allison Barr's book. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that being a pastor's wife isn't very important. It is. I think you have an important role. But if God is calling you to ministry as a woman, there are many forms that could take.
Mm-hmm.
It could take lead pastor. It could take missionary. It could take a million different things in ministry.
And why, this is kind of getting off the rails here, but like, why would being called into ministry mean that you would marry a pastor? Because why are we defining ourselves based on what our spouse's career is?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be like, I'm being called to engineering. That must mean I'm going to marry an engineer.
No.
It doesn't compute.
Right.
It means like God is calling you to something much bigger. And if you happen to marry someone also in that field, awesome. But you are worthy of going to follow that calling from Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And not to have to wait on a man to do it. Mm-mm. Because let's say you do feel like a calling to ministry and you don't meet a pastor that you fall in love with.
Yeah. What if they all are wearing stupid shoes and denim jackets and you're not into that?
Like, are you supposed to wait on your calling from God until you happen to find a pastor that you want to marry? Are you supposed to tell God, I will only marry a pastor? Like, these are things that don't make a lot of sense to me.
That's what I was finding interesting. I was watching a couple of TikToks about decentering men from your life. And this girl was talking about how you don't even realize how many decisions you make in your life with the focus of men involved. And she's like, it's a practice. It's like a muscle you have to exercise in your brain to center yourself instead and think, if I were to never, ever get married, like if it was not an option, what would I do? And then go do those things. What career would you have? Would you travel? Would you live in the same area? Would you post those pictures? Why are you posting those pictures? Are you wearing what you want to wear because it's what you want to wear, or because you're concerned about how men will perceive it? Or what tattoos or piercings or color hair you have? Like, what decisions are you making in your life solely based on what men would think about it?
I think that's been huge for me lately because I mean, I've said this before, but I just got a really big tattoo down my arm, and I didn't do it for a really long time. I've wanted a sleeve tattoo for ages. I feel like I've been talking about it
forever.
But I didn't do it because there is this fear, and for me it's not just the men in my life, it's just sort of the general society of my life. But like, there is this fear of like, well, what if I'm not attractive anymore?
Or like, this isn't feminine enough.
Right, exactly. But then I got it done and I realized that I feel more myself.
It's attractive to you.
Exactly. Like, I love this about myself, and no one can take it away from me, and no one
Unless we
can-
chop off your arm.
Unless we chop off my arm, which I would prefer that we not do if it's all the same.
If we have to, we have to.
But like, it's just something that I get to love about me. It doesn't really matter. And is it hard sometimes when people make comments? Of course. But it doesn't really matter if everyone else hates it, because it's something that I get to love about me. So yeah, what are things that you could love about you that you're not doing because broader society says not to? Because broader society says it's not feminine.
Yeah, you're just not doing because you're concerned about what other people might think. For example, burping.
You're so weird when you're tired. Anyway, so the last person that I wanted to talk about as we try to get back on track is Rachel Held Evans, who is our more modern person. She's someone that you may have heard of if you're in the Christian feminist space often. She was born in 1981 and she unfortunately passed away in 2019. So just a few years ago. Rachel was a really prominent figure in I don't even just want to say like the Christian feminist movement. She was for sure, but kind of just the Christian equality movement. Because she was talking about all kinds of marginalized people. She was inviting them into church. She was inviting them into faith, into a relationship with God when nobody else was. And giving people equality that were always, always, always secondary. So she was a really cool figure. I have a lot of respect for her. But here's a little bit of her story. So she got a degree in English.
Useful.
As we all know, my degree is very useful. But she started publishing books in 2008. And she was publishing with Zondervan, which is a very prominent Christian publisher in the US. And her first book was called Evolving in Monkey Town, which was all about like deconstructing faith and, like we talk about all the time, pulling it apart and seeing what sticks, not just following what you were taught to follow.
I feel like I'm in Monkey Town.
Just pretty much every day
Like
of our lives.
4 days a week.
And then in 2012, she wrote a book called A Year of Biblical Womanhood, which was one of the first Christian feminist books that I read. I think it was maybe the second one that I read. And it's all about, she follows for an entire year. And she was also a journalist, so it's from this like journalistic perspective. She follows for an entire year very strictly all of the things that the Bible says women should do. Like, even though we can look at the Bible and we can say, okay, contextually, we don't need to be doing that. She was like, I'm going to follow this just to say
Word for word. This is what it says. There we go.
So she did for a whole year. And I think, based on the book, made her husband very uncomfortable because he was not like on board with this stuff. One of them is like keeping her head covered. One of them was calling him, I forget what she called him.
Master.
It might have been that.
Ew.
And she would do different things for a month. And just like for a whole year, just like documenting it. What was it like? What was that experience like? How did it impact their relationship? And why does she believe that the Bible does or does not require this of women, of people, of whatever anymore? And it's a great book. Like, I highly recommend it. It was, like I said, it was one of the first ones that I read, and I love how she pulls it apart because she says, look, I'm gonna do the thing, but then after being the person who does the thing, none of you have done the thing.
Yep.
But after being the person who did the thing, here's my experience, here's why it did or didn't work, and here's what we need to do moving forward.
Give me my space. I'm about to talk.
Yeah. So good. So that was published in 2012. And then in 2015, she wrote an article, like I said, she's a journalist, that was called Want Millennials Back in the Pews? Stop Trying to Make Church Cool. But you can,
when millennials needed
when we were the younger ones. But I think all of these show that she has a pattern of not accepting the standard churchiness. You know, not just accepting what she's been given, not just accepting what the male lead pastors in the world are handing down for people to deal with, but to say, no, I expect something else. And we're either going to do it or I'm going to force it. Like, she was going to change her world, whether people liked it or not.
Yeah, expecting more out of the people around you and expecting to be treated well. Radical.
Expecting to be treated well has been such an issue for us lately. Because as we talked a couple weeks ago, last week?
Who knows? We're always talking.
About our struggles with, I think it was last week, with church and feeling safe in church. And that has led both of us to not really have a space where we feel comfortable. And so you look at someone like Rachel Held Evans, and she demanded better. She demanded better of the spaces around her, and she was going to make that world better. And I hope that as we talk to you guys, that we can make your faith-based space a little better, because the communities that we've found ourselves in have not been that for us. So what does it look like to demand safety?
It feels like Iceland to me.
Iceland? They do have a lot of women in their government. I'm very pro that.
Statistically, the happiest country on planet Earth.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Tomorrow. So then in 2016, President Barack Obama of the United States.
A different Barack.
A different one. We talked about them both this time.
Yeah, what a Barack sandwich we've made this.
He appointed her to the President's Advisory Council on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships.
Should we say it? I miss Obama.
I'm with you. I think that's really, like, so significant. And I'm sure that, you know, we've got people on both sides. Well, I'm not sure at this point that we have people on both sides of the political spectrum. We really have leaned one way and stayed in that lane.
You might call us Eileen.
You might.
If you're our father.
But she was given a really distinguished position.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of her gender, not because she was some televangelist that everybody knew the name of, like a lot of presidents will choose for advisory councils, things like that, but because she was showing Jesus's love.
Mm-hmm.
Because her voice was significant in a space that wasn't given a lot of attention.
She was showing Jesus's love in a way that it had not been shown in a long time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often, especially from the Christian people, Jesus's love is shown as judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And how radical is it to not have that?
Mm-hmm.
To actually show love is like unconditional, no matter who you are, what gender you are, what color you are. This is the true love of Jesus. And how much more good are you able to do by showing that?
Well, I think when you talk to like psychologists and things like that, conditional love is so damaging. One of the worst things that you can do to your kids as they grow up is show them conditional love, which means I love you and I will show that I love you, but only if you follow these rules. Only if you do what I say.
There's a limit.
Right. Christians take Jesus's love and they make it conditional. Jesus didn't make it conditional. God doesn't make it conditional. Christians make God's love conditional.
In fact, he made it so unconditional. Like, think about him dying on the cross. And now think about the worst person that you can think of. And he died on the cross for that person, too. The absolute worst.
Or even just, you know, frankly, forget the worst people. The people you really don't like.
The Karens.
The Karens.
And what's a good male equivalent of Karen? The Kyles.
All right. Sorry to France and Ireland and Karen and Kyle. It's been a surprising amount of offense today. All right. Couple more points about Rachel. So she co-founded a conference called Evolving Faith with Sarah Bessey, who they were super good friends. Sarah Bessey wrote Jesus Feminist, which I think is like the best book to introduce you to this topic ever.
That was your first book.
It was my first
Ever.
one. Not that. No.
It was the first book she ever read.
That's just not true. My first book in this space. But I think that's like the gold standard of like how to introduce yourself to the Christian feminist sphere. But so they were really good friends. They co-founded this conference. The first year that they did it, they said it was for young progressive Christians. So they were targeting, because at the time millennials were considered young, so they were targeting the millennials. Well, that's no longer the case. Our knees don't work.
I just said that today.
You say that every day.
That's true, but I came up the stairs at work and I was like, oh, what would it be like to have knees?
I don't know.
Period.
Mine have been cut out.
Yeah.
Just straight out of my body. But anyway, so they expected to have 200 people. That was sort of like their highest and best goal, you know? And instead, 1,400 people showed up. I'm going to guess it was a little bit of chaos.
They would need some loaves and fishes. Oh my gosh.
But a bunch of people showed up because their message was so strong. Because people were looking for this. The Bible says that people should know you by your fruit, right?
I bet you they had some good fruit. And they ran out fast.
They ran out really fast. But people should flock to you, not because you're standing on the street corner throwing Bibles at them, but because you have shown so much of God's love that they just can't help but want to be around you. And that's what happened here with these two women who were and are incredible leaders. Now, by the time Rachel passed away, she actually no longer considered herself evangelical, because she did still have faith, but she didn't consider herself evangelical because of the church's ties to the far right, which is really interesting because she passed away in 2019. Here we are in 2025 in the same boat.
Yep.
But I wanted to read a quote about her. So this quote is from Emma Green, who wrote for The Atlantic. She said that Evans was part of a vanguard of progressive Christian women who fought to change the way Christianity is taught and perceived in the United States. Well, she argued that Evans's legacy was her unwillingness to cede ownership of Christianity to its traditional conservative male stewards, and that her very public, vulnerable exploration of a faith forged in doubt empowered a ragtag band of writers, pastors, and teachers to claim their rightful place as Christians.
That's super incredible.
Imagine that being said about you.
They won't say that about me. They'll be like, Brian, it's just
You're
insane."
standing on her head.
Yep. And that's all there is. There isn't anymore.
I just think nothing better could be said about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a lot of criticism of her because she was progressive, because she was welcoming of the LGBTQ community, because she believed women could and should lead, because she didn't put limits on God's love. I've heard a lot of criticism of her. You can do a quick Google search. You'll find it. But at the end of her life, that's what she's known as.
When our greatest calling is to lead other people to Christ and to love each other, I think she fulfilled the prompt.
A plus.
A plus. She got an A plus.
Whatever the best is that you can do on the SAT.
But think about her legacy, and then think about a lot of like the very popular male pastors that you would think that should be their legacy, right? Bringing other people to Christ. But usually it's like, oh, whoops, they got someone pregnant. Oh, whoops, they abused their power.
Right.
Oh,
actually,
whoops.
So John MacArthur, who was a very well-known pastor, just passed away yesterday. I did not personally know a whole lot about him.
I'm not focusing on men these days. I don't know.
But I've read a lot about the situation because, frankly, it's all over the pages that I follow. So here we are. But as you read more about him, now, you guys might not be as familiar with him either. He was older. Like, I don't think he's like, on all the TikToks right now or anything.
What?
I know. Wild. But he essentially used his theology to promote misogyny, to promote racism, to promote authoritarianism. Like, he took
the Lord's work.
Right. He took the Bible and he weaponized the Bible. And you're seeing all these articles come out about his abuse, about women that went to him with troubles in their marriage, and he said, you have to stay in that marriage regardless of whether he abuses you or not, because the Bible says so, because God hates divorce, which we've talked about before, and is not what the Bible says at all. But this is what he will be known for, at least by the marginalized.
Abuse of power.
Right.
And hate.
There will be people that hold him up on a pedestal, because there always are people that hold that sort of person up on a pedestal. But Jesus said, what you do for the least of these, you've done for me. What you've done for them, you've done for Jesus. But when you've lived a life promoting those in power anyway, you haven't done a lot for Jesus at the end of the day.
No. Done a lot for yourself. Well, on that note.
So I hope you guys liked learning about these women. I found that because I grew up in a very evangelical space, I didn't learn a lot about women, the strong women in the world. And so I really like to learn about some of them. Some of these women I knew about, some of them I didn't. In 2 weeks, you will be hearing an interview from us. We are interviewing an author. Her name is Heather Fraser. She has a book coming out this year, and it's called Mom Got Jesus Wrong. Hallelujah. It is a fiction book that talks about deconstructing faith and finding out what makes sense for you. So we're going to be talking to her you'll hear that episode in about 2 weeks. Next week is a new adventure that I don't know what we'll do yet.
The Chronicles of Narnia and stepping into a closet and coming out next to a goat man.
I'm good. I don't think we should do that one.
Or perhaps we could talk about something different.
Perhaps. So stay tuned. We won't be talking about that. Not to worry. But get excited for 2 weeks from now. We're very excited to hear from Heather. So we will talk to you then. Love you. Bye.
May the Lord bless and keep you.
You do that a lot.
I do that a lot in my life.
Really?
Yeah. I just do it a lot.
Okay.
I'm hot.
Love you. Bye.
Let's go. Goodbye.